But I remember Julia came to see me in New York, and he said, Richard, Julia's
all-around ethnic bad boy, whatever.
Richard Gere is Hollywood royalty. Pretty Woman made him a global icon. An officer and a gentleman proved he could act. For over 40 years, Richard dominated the screen with his charm, intensity, and undeniable star power.
Half of the fund's assets are missing.
That's ridiculous. I mean, it can't be right.
It's ridiculous?
But behind that famous smile, Richard has been keeping secrets. Harsh ones, brutal ones. Richard isn't like other stars. He's a serious Buddhist. He meditates for hours daily. He speaks out for human rights in Tibet and supports the Dalai Lama.
and inclusion from the Tibetan side.
He believes in discipline, respect, and spiritual growth. Those values shaped how he sees acting and how he judges other actors. Hollywood changed around him. Method acting became an excuse for bad behavior. Social media replaced actual talent, and actors started caring more about their brand than their craft. Richard watched it happen with growing frustration. He saw the art form he loved become a business he barely recognized. These 10 actors represent everything Richard despises about modern Hollywood. Some are too shallow, some are too violent, some betrayed causes he dedicated his life to, and one of them had a decades-long feud with Richard that almost turned physical at an award show. The #1 name will shock you because they were once close friends. So, let's begin with number 10. 10. Sylvester Stallone. Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone have hated each other since the 70s. The feud started when they both auditioned for the same roles early in their careers. Stallone got the action parts. Richard got the romantic leads. That should have been the end of it. But the rivalry never stopped. The real explosion came at a dinner party in the early 80s. Different versions of the story exist, but everyone agrees it got ugly. They argued about acting. Stallone mocked Richard's spiritual beliefs.
Fun of being an actor, a young actor, just diving into these new worlds, these new universes.
Richard called Stallone a meathead who made garbage films. Things almost got physical before other guests separated them. Richard believes Stallone represents everything wrong with 80s action cinema. No depth, no meaning, just muscles and explosions. Stallone built an empire on playing the same character over and over.
Hey, Rogue.
Yeah.
At the time?
Rocky, Rambo, every tough guy with a heart of gold. To Richard, that's not acting, that's branding. What bothers Richard most is how seriously Stallone takes himself. Stallone thinks his films are important. He acts like Rocky is great art. Richard finds that delusion pathetic. Stallone made entertaining popcorn movies. Nothing wrong with that. But pretending they're more is embarrassing. 9. Tom Cruise. Richard Gere and Tom Cruise should have been allies. Both became huge stars in the 80s. Both played romantic leads and action heroes. But Richard can't stand Tom. The reason is simple. Tom Cruise isn't a real person. He's a carefully constructed product. The Scientology involvement bothers Richard deeply. As a Buddhist who values spiritual freedom, Richard finds Scientology's control tactics horrifying. The organization allegedly manipulates members and destroys families.
And you see, well, this can change our world.
Tom isn't just a member. He's the most visible promoter. That makes him complicit in Richard's eyes. But it's not just religion. It's Tom's entire existence. Every word he says in public feels scripted. Every smile seems calculated. Every appearance is managed by a team of handlers. Richard values authenticity above everything. Tom is the opposite of authentic. According to people who know both actors, they've been at the same events dozens of times and barely speak. Richard keeps his distance. He once told a friend that talking to Tom feels like talking to a robot programmed to seem human. There's nothing real underneath the performance. 8. Charlie Sheen. Richard Gere worked with Charlie Sheen once in the 90s. The experience was professional but cold. Richard saw potential in young Charlie. Good instincts, natural timing, decent range. But he also saw the partying, the arrogance, the lack of discipline, and Richard knew Charlie would waste everything.
I guess you're a little more daring when you're 14 points behind on the campaign trail. And
Years later, Richard watched Charlie's public meltdown with disgust. The tiger blood rants, the goddesses, the complete psychological breakdown turned into entertainment. Hollywood laughed and paid Charlie to keep performing his insanity. Richard found the whole spectacle tragic and infuriating.
Because they were asking me about it before, and it was at night. I think it was a Lotus. The car was a Lotus or something.
Richard came from serious theater training. He studied method acting and approached every role with discipline and respect. Charlie treated acting like a game, something easy that required no real work. Just show up, say the lines, collect the check, party all night. What makes Richard angriest is the waste. Charlie had real opportunities. He could have built a legitimate career. Instead, he chose drugs, chaos, and self-destruction. Then he monetized his breakdown and made millions more. Richard believes that says everything wrong about what Hollywood values. 7. Alec Baldwin. Richard Gere believes Buddhism's first principle is nonviolence. Do no harm. Alec Baldwin violated that principle in the worst possible way. He pointed a gun at a cinematographer and pulled the trigger without checking if it was loaded. Helena Hutchins died, and Richard has never forgiven him. Baldwin's history of violence was well known before Rust. The voicemail called his daughter a pig. The physical altercations with photographers. The constant rage was barely controlled. Hollywood ignored all of it because Alec was talented and connected. Then, someone died. What makes Richard angrier is Baldwin's refusal to take full responsibility, blaming the armorer, the assistant director, everyone except himself.
I left my wife and 6 kids in New York to come here for a month to shoot this movie, and I'm the one that shot the gun today that had a live bullet.
Even claiming he didn't pull the trigger when forensics proved he did. Richard believes a real man owns his mistakes. Baldwin never stopped making excuses. Richard has spoken publicly about the Rust shooting. He said any actor who doesn't personally check a weapon before using it is criminally negligent. He called Baldwin's behavior cowardly and disrespectful to Helena's memory. Those comments destroyed any possibility of them ever working together. 6. Steven Seagal. This one is personal for Richard. Steven Seagal claims to be a Buddhist. He was recognized as a tulku, a reincarnated lama by a Tibetan Buddhist master. Richard, who has studied Buddhism seriously for 40 years, thinks Seagal is a complete fraud using religion for credibility. Seagal's behavior contradicts every Buddhist principle. Multiple women accused him of sexual assault and harassment. He allegedly has ties to Russian organized crime. He supported dictators and autocrats, and he lies constantly about his martial arts background and CIA connections. Richard has dedicated his life to supporting Tibetan Buddhism and the Dalai Lama. He's been banned from China for his activism. He's risked his career to speak the truth about human rights. Then Seagal shows up calling himself a Buddhist while acting like a thug. It's an insult to everything Richard holds sacred. According to people close to Richard, he was once asked about Seagal's Buddhist credentials. Richard's response was blunt. He said anyone who abuses women and supports Vladimir Putin isn't a Buddhist. They're just wearing Buddhism like a costume. Real practice requires real change. Seagal never changed anything except his publicity strategy. 5. Jared Leto. Richard Gere understands method acting. He studied with the best teachers and used those techniques throughout his career. But he believes method acting requires discipline and respect.
Now, if I were to speak, a lot of people would get hurt. Jobs, families, a lot of innocent people. Do you think you can understand?
Jared Leto turned it into a circus act that insults the entire tradition.
Question is, how do I control it? Isolate it.
The stories about Leto sending dead rats and using condoms to co-stars disgust Richard. That's not preparation. That's psychological warfare disguised as commitment. Real method actors do internal work. They don't torture the people around them to prove how serious they are. Richard once worked with actual method masters like Robert De Niro in his prime. They were demanding but never abusive. They pushed themselves, not others. Leto does the opposite. He makes everyone else suffer while he performs his dedication for the cameras and critics. What bothers Richard most is how Hollywood praised Leto's behavior. Critics called it brave and intense. Richard sees an entitled actor with minimal talent using shock tactics because his actual work isn't strong enough. If you need to send dead animals to be memorable, your performance probably isn't very good. 4. Sean Penn. Richard Gere has spent decades fighting for Tibet and human rights. He's been arrested protesting, he's been banned from entire countries, he's risked everything for causes he believes in. Then there's Sean Penn, the actor who treats activism like a performance designed to win awards. Penn goes to war zones with camera crews. He meets with dictators and calls it journalism. He positions himself as a deep thinker on global issues, but Richard sees through it. Penn uses activism to feed his ego and boost his image. It's not about the causes, it's about Sean Penn looking important. What makes it worse is Penn's history of violence combined with his moral preaching. Multiple assault arrests, allegations of domestic abuse against Madonna that she later downplayed. You can't preach about justice while having a pattern of hurting people. That's not activism. That's hypocrisy. Richard and Sean have been at the same political events and fundraisers for years. People who witness their interactions say the tension is thick. They're nominally on the same side politically, but Richard can barely hide his contempt. Penn's self-importance and violent history make him everything Richard despises. 3. Mel Gibson. Richard Gere is Jewish through his mother's side. He also considers himself a Buddhist. Mel Gibson's drunken anti-Semitic rant in 2006 disgusted Richard on multiple levels. Gibson said Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world. That kind of hatred is unforgivable to Richard. But it wasn't just one incident. The recorded phone calls where Gibson threatened his girlfriend with violence, the racist tirades, the pattern of abuse and bigotry. Gibson revealed who he really is, and Hollywood decided to forgive him because he's talented. Richard watched Gibson get welcomed back into Hollywood with Oscar nominations for Hacksaw Ridge. The same industry that claims to stand against hatred gave Gibson another chance. Richard spoke out publicly against it. He said some actions reveal character so completely that redemption isn't possible. 2. Debra Winger. This is the most personal feud on the list. Richard Gere and Debra Winger starred together in An Officer and a Gentleman in 1982. The film was a massive hit and made both of them stars, but behind the scenes they absolutely hated each other. That hatred never died. From the first day of filming, they clashed. Different acting styles, different personalities, different values. Debra found Richard arrogant and cold. Richard found Debra unprofessional and difficult. The tension was so bad that it affected the entire production. What bothers Richard most is how Debra talks about him publicly. She's told stories making him look bad for decades. Meanwhile, Richard tried to stay professional and not engage. But privately, he's told friends that Debra was the most difficult co-star he ever worked with. The success of An Officer and a Gentleman is the only reason they tolerate each other at all. 1. Richard Gere. The actor. Richard Gere hates most is himself. Not the movie star, but the man. The one who compromised. The one who chose Hollywood over principles. The one who let fear and comfort win. Richard speaks publicly about Tibet and Buddhism. He supports the Dalai Lama and fights for human rights. But he also took roles in films financed by companies with ties to China. He made compromises to keep his career alive, and he hates himself for every single one. China banned Richard from the country for his activism. Chinese companies won't finance films with him. That should be a badge of honor. But it also limited his career. He could have been even more radical, even more outspoken. Instead, he calculated how much activism he could afford without completely destroying his Hollywood viability. Richard watches younger activists who risk everything without thinking about career consequences. They inspire him and shame him simultaneously. He knows he could have done more. He chose not to because he valued his comfort and status. At 75 years old, Richard Gere is still searching for answers. These 10 actors represent failures he recognizes in Hollywood and himself. The violence, the frauds, the hypocrites, and the coward who chose safety over truth. Some of them are still working, some are canceled or retired, but they all share one thing. They revealed who they really are. Richard revealed who he is too. A talented actor who wanted to be more than just a movie star, who tried to use his platform for good, but who also made compromises and stayed quiet when speaking would have cost too much. Maybe that's human. Maybe that's realistic. Or maybe it's just another excuse. What do you think? Are these 10 actors everything wrong with Hollywood? Or is Richard just projecting his own failures onto others? Drop your opinion in the comments and subscribe for more Hollywood truths that cut deeper than you expect.